My name is Emily Richardson. I'm 29 years old, and 3 days before what should have been the happiest day of my life, I discovered something that would change everything. But here's what you need to know right now. This story isn't just about catching a cheater. It's about what I found out at the very end that will make your blood run cold. Trust me when I tell you to stick around until the final moments, because what I'm about to reveal will connect dots you never saw coming. The woman I thought was helping me get revenge. Well, let's just say some betrayals run deeper than you could ever imagine. Picture this. Picture this, wedding dress hanging pristine in my closet, flowers ordered, venue decorated, and 200 guests ready to celebrate the love story of Emily and Marcus. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 18 months, and I genuinely believed I was living in a fairy tale. Marcus was everything I thought I wanted. Successful marketing executive, charming smile, the kind of man who opened doors and remembered anniversaries. But fairy tales, as I learned, are just pretty lies we tell ourselves. It was Tuesday evening, exactly 72 hours before our Saturday wedding. I was at Marcus's apartment, going over last-minute details while he claimed to be working late at the office. Again, the third time that week. I should have been suspicious, but love makes you stupid. Trust makes you blind. I was organizing his desk when his laptop chimed with a message notification. The screen was still open to his email, and there it was. A message that would shatter my world into a million pieces. Can't wait for Saturday night, baby. While she's crying over her ruined wedding, we'll be celebrating in room 237. V. My hands started shaking. V. Veronica. His just a colleague that he'd mentioned casually over the past few months. The woman he'd insisted was just a friend from the marketing department whenever I asked about her. I clicked on the message thread, and what I found made me physically sick. Months of messages, photos I won't describe, plans that went back to before he even proposed to me. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, was reading how they laughed about me, how they called me the placeholder, how Marcus was only marrying me for my trust fund, planning to divorce me after a year and take half of everything. She's so gullible, one message read. Honestly believes I love her. The prenup she refused to sign is going to make us rich. Poor little Emily, Veronica had replied. If only she knew her perfect fiancé has been in my bed every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 8 months. I sat there in that chair, reading message after message, feeling my heart die a little more with each revelation. They had been planning this betrayal since the beginning. Every I love you, every romantic gesture, every moment I thought was real, it was all a performance. A long con with my heart and my bank account as the prize. But then something interesting happened. As I kept reading, I noticed something about Veronica that Marcus clearly hadn't. Her messages revealed a calculating, manipulative woman who was playing him just as much as he was playing me. She talked about other men she was seeing. She laughed about Marcus's pathetic attempts at romance. She even joked with someone else about how she was going to take Marcus for everything he had once they got rid of me. That's when the tears stopped. That's when the rage turned into something much more dangerous. Clarity. I screenshot everything. Every message, every photo, every cruel joke at my expense. Then I did something that would later prove to be either genius or insanity. I reached out to Veronica, but not as the betrayed fiancé. No, that would have been too easy, too predictable. Instead, I reached out as a heartbroken woman who had discovered Marcus was cheating. Without revealing, I knew she was the other woman. I created a fake social media account and messaged her. Hi, I know we don't know each other, but I found your number in my fiancé Marcus's phone. I think he might be having an affair. Could we meet for coffee? I need someone to talk to who might understand what I'm going through. The response came back within an hour. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Men are pigs. I'd love to help you through this difficult time. Coffee tomorrow? The audacity was breathtaking. She was going to comfort me about the affair she was having with my fiancé. But as I sat there planning, I realized this was exactly the opportunity I needed. You see, Marcus and I had already paid for everything. The honeymoon to the Maldives was non-refundable. 2 weeks at a luxury resort that cost more than most people make in a year. And suddenly, I had a very different plan for how to use it. I met Veronica the next day at a coffee shop downtown. She was everything I expected, stunning in a fake, overly done way, dripping with jewelry that probably came from married men, and oozing false sympathy from every pore. "You poor thing," she cooed, reaching across the table to pat my hand. "I can see the pain in your eyes. What happened?" I told her a carefully crafted story about finding suspicious messages and feeling like my whole world was falling apart. How I couldn't face canceling the wedding because of the shame, but couldn't go through with marrying a cheater either. "You know what?" I said, letting my voice break just enough. "I have this honeymoon trip already paid for. 2 weeks in the Maldives. I can't bear the thought of going alone, and I can't get the money back. Would you maybe want to come with me? I know it sounds crazy, but I could use a friend right now, and you seem like someone who really understands." The greed in her eyes was unmistakable. A free luxury vacation to the Maldives? She was practically salivating. "Oh, sweetie," she said, squeezing my hand. "That's such a generous offer, but are you sure? It might be exactly what you need, though. Time away to heal and think clearly. And honestly, I've been going through some relationship drama myself. Maybe we could help each other." "Relationship drama? Right, with my fiancé. Please," I begged. "I really don't want to be alone right now, and something about you just feels trustworthy." If she felt any guilt about that statement, she hid it well. We agreed to leave Saturday night, the exact time I was supposed to be celebrating my wedding reception. Instead, I'd be beginning the most elaborate revenge plot of my life. That night, I called Marcus. My voice was steady, cold. "I know about Veronica." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Emily, I can explain." "No need," I cut him off. "The wedding is off. I'm keeping the ring since you bought it with my money anyway. And Marcus? Room 237 is going to be very lonely Saturday night." I hung up before he could respond. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of activity. I canceled the wedding quietly, told our families there had been a mutual decision to postpone, and began preparing for a trip that would change everything. But the most important preparation was the one Veronica knew nothing about: hidden cameras. Tiny, undetectable recording devices that I carefully packed into every piece of luggage, every outfit, every accessory I was bringing. Because this wasn't just going to be a vacation. This was going to be a documentary. As I packed, I thought about Marcus, probably frantically trying to reach Veronica, not knowing she was about to disappear to the Maldives with his ex-fiancé. I thought about Veronica, probably shopping for bikinis with money from whatever married man she was bleeding dry this week. Neither of them had any idea what was coming. Saturday evening, as I sat in the first-class lounge at the airport waiting for Veronica, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Power. Control. For the first time since finding those messages, I wasn't the victim in this story. I was the author. Veronica arrived looking like she was ready for a magazine photo shoot, dragging designer luggage and wearing an outfit that probably cost more than most people's rent. She hugged me with fake warmth and whispered, "This is going to be so healing for both of us." If only she knew. As our plane lifted off toward paradise, I smiled for the first time in days. Not because I was happy. I was still heartbroken, still betrayed, still angry. But because I knew something that Marcus and Veronica didn't. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's letting people reveal exactly who they really are. The Maldives resort was exactly as advertised. Crystal blue waters, pristine white sand, and luxury that felt almost obscene. Our overwater villa was stunning, with glass floors that looked down into the lagoon and a private deck that extended out over the ocean. "This is incredible." Veronica breathed as we settled into our suite. "I mean, I'm so sorry about your situation, but honey, you really know how to pick a place to heal." I watched her through my hidden cameras as she immediately began photographing everything, no doubt planning to post about her girls' trip without mentioning why we were really there. The woman had no shame. "I thought we could use some pampering," I said, unpacking carefully. Each item I removed had been strategically chosen and positioned. Spa treatments, sunset dinners, maybe some water sports? "You're an angel," she said, already changing into a bikini that left nothing to the imagination. You know, Emily, I have to say, I'm really impressed with how you're handling this whole cheating situation. Most women would be falling apart. The irony was suffocating. Our first evening, we had dinner at the resort's most exclusive restaurant. The food was incredible, the wine was flowing, and Veronica was getting comfortable. Too comfortable. "So," she said, leaning back in her chair with her third glass of champagne, "tell me more about this Marcus guy. What made you suspicious?" I had my story ready. Little things at first. Working late more often, being secretive with his phone, less intimate, you know? And then I found some receipts for things I knew nothing about. Jewelry that wasn't for me, hotel rooms I wasn't invited to. "Men are such pigs," she said, shaking her head with practiced sympathy. "I've dealt with my share of cheaters. You're better off without him." "Have you ever been the other woman?" I asked innocently, sipping my wine. For just a moment, her mask slipped. A flash of something. Guilt? Calculation? Crossed her face before the sympathetic friend expression returned. "Once," she admitted. "When I was younger and stupider, I thought he was going to leave his wife for me, but of course he never did. They never do." Lies. All lies. Based on what I'd read in those messages, Veronica made a career of being the other woman. Multiple married men, multiple affairs, multiple broken homes left in her wake. "That must have been painful," I said. "It was a learning experience," she replied, signaling for another drink. "Now I know better. I only date available men." The audacity was breathtaking. She was sitting here, comforting me about my cheating fiancé while actively sleeping with him, and having the nerve to claim she only dated available men. But this was exactly what I was counting on. Veronica was a narcissist, and narcissists can't help but reveal themselves when they feel safe, when they think they're in control. Over the next few days, I began to carefully orchestrate situations that would expose her true nature. It started small, pointing out attractive men around the resort and watching her reaction. She couldn't help herself. Even while supposedly supporting me through my heartbreak, she was flirting with every man in sight. "That guy at the bar keeps looking over here," I mentioned casually on our third day. "Which one?" she asked, immediately perking up and turning to look. "The tall one in the blue shirt? He's cute?" "Oh, honey, you're not ready to think about other men yet," she said, but her eyes were locked on him. "You need time to heal." 20 minutes later, while I was in the bathroom, she was at the bar talking to him. I watched through the cameras I'd planted, recording every flirtatious laugh, every seductive smile. The woman who was supposed to be helping me through my heartbreak was actively hunting for her next conquest. But that was just the beginning. On day 4, I suggested we book a couples massage, just the two of us to relax and talk. During the massage, with essential oils making the room fragrant and soft music playing, Veronica became chatty. Very chatty. "You know, Emily," she said from the massage table next to mine, "I have to confess something. I haven't been entirely honest with you." My heart rate spiked, but I kept my voice calm. "What do you mean?" "I've been in contact with someone back home, a man. It's complicated because, well, he's not exactly available." "You mean he's married?" "Not married, but committed to someone else. It's been going on for months, and I know I should end it, but the connection is just so intense." I felt my jaw clench. She was talking about Marcus, my Marcus. While getting a massage that I was paying for in a resort I had booked for my honeymoon, she was confessing to the affair that destroyed my life. "That sounds complicated," I managed to say. "It is, and the thing is, his girlfriend has no idea. She's planning their wedding, poor thing. She's so naive, so trusting. Part of me feels bad for her, but when you find a connection like this, you have to follow your heart, right?" The massage therapist continued working on my shoulders, oblivious to the fact that she was witnessing a confession that was being recorded in multiple angles. "Do you think he'll leave her for you?" I asked. "Eventually. He says the wedding is just for show, for her family's money. Once he gets what he needs from her, he'll be free to be with me." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her by her perfectly styled hair and tell her exactly who she was talking to. But I didn't, because this was exactly what I needed. Her own words, in her own voice, revealing the depth of her manipulation and deceit. "What's his name?" I asked casually. "Marcus," she said without hesitation. "Marcus Wellington." The lie was effortless. Marcus's last name was Richardson, just like mine would have been. But Veronica had just revealed something crucial. She was so comfortable lying that she did it automatically, even when she thought she was being honest. After the massage, we went back to our villa. Veronica immediately went to the bathroom to freshen up, and I watched through my hidden cameras as she pulled out her phone and started texting frantically. She was messaging someone, probably Marcus, telling him about the heartbroken bride-to-be she was helping through her difficult time. The text messages I could see were exactly what I expected. She's so pathetic, completely clueless. This vacation is incredible. You should see this place. That evening, I suggested we have dinner in our villa instead of going to one of the resort restaurants. I had room service deliver a beautiful meal, complete with champagne and candles. The setting was romantic, intimate, perfect for getting people to lower their guard. "This is so thoughtful," Veronica said, settling into her chair. "You really know how to take care of people." "I believe in treating people the way they deserve to be treated," I replied, pouring the wine. As the evening progressed and the alcohol flowed, Veronica became more and more honest about her philosophy on relationships. "The thing about men," she said, gesturing with her wine glass, "is that they're all cheaters at heart. The key is to be the woman they cheat with, not the woman they cheat on." "That's a pretty cynical view," I said. "It's realistic," she corrected. "Look at your situation with Marcus. He seemed perfect, right? Devoted, loving, ready to commit. But underneath, he was just like all the rest. At least when you're the other woman, you know where you stand. You're not building your whole life around a lie." The projection was stunning. She was talking about my relationship like it was my fault for trusting, my fault for believing in love, my fault for not seeing the signs. Meanwhile, she was the one who had actively pursued a committed man, who had helped destroy a relationship, who had laughed about my pain. "So you don't believe in real love?" I asked. "I believe in taking care of yourself," she said. "Love is just a pretty word men use to control women. Smart women take what they can get and move on before they get hurt." "What about the other women? The ones who get hurt?" She shrugged. "Not my problem. If they can't keep their men happy, that's on them." I nodded thoughtfully, as if considering her philosophy. Inside, I was recording every word, every callous statement, every revelation of her true character. By the end of the evening, I had enough footage to create a masterpiece. Veronica had revealed herself to be exactly what I suspected, a predatory, manipulative woman who targeted committed men and felt no remorse for the destruction she caused. But I wasn't done yet. The real revelation was still to come. As we headed to bed, Veronica hugged me goodnight. "Thank you for this," she said. "I know it sounds weird because of why we're here, but this has been exactly what I needed. You're such a good friend, Emily." A good friend. The woman who was sleeping with my fiancé thought I was a good friend. I smiled and hugged her back. "Sweet dreams, Veronica. Tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day." She had no idea how interesting. Day 7 in paradise. Halfway through our trip, and I was ready to implement the most crucial part of my plan. Everything up to this point had been about gathering evidence, documenting Veronica's true nature, and building trust. Now it was time for the real show to begin. I woke up early and prepared breakfast on our villa's private deck. Fresh fruit, pastries from room service, and champagne mimosas. When Veronica emerged from her bedroom in a silk robe, she looked like a woman without a care in the world. "You're spoiling me," she said, settling into her chair and looking out over the crystal clear water. "I wanted to do something special today," I said, pouring her a mimosa. "I've been thinking about everything you've said this week, about taking control of your life and not being a victim." Her eyes lit up. She loved being seen as wise, as someone who had life figured out. "I'm glad I could help," she said. "You seem so much stronger than when we arrived." "I am stronger, and I've made some decisions." "Oh, what kind of decisions?" I pulled out my phone and set it on the table between us. I've decided to confront Marcus about his affair. For the first time since we'd met, Veronica looked genuinely uncomfortable. "Are you sure that's a good idea? I mean, sometimes it's better to just walk away." "No, I think I need closure. I need to hear him admit what he's done." I paused, watching her face carefully. The thing is, I know who the other woman is. The color drained from her face. You do? Yes. And Veronica, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. She nodded, but I could see the panic building in her eyes. The man you told me about during our massage. Marcus. The one who's engaged to someone else. His last name isn't Wellington, is it? The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I could practically see her mind racing, trying to figure out how much I knew, how she could possibly explain this away. Emily, she started. His last name is Richardson, I continued. And the naive, trusting fiancé you feel so sorry for? That's me. The mimosa glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the deck. For a moment, she just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I can explain, she finally whispered. Oh, I'm sure you can. You're very good at explaining things. Very good at manipulation. Very good at playing the victim while you're actually the predator. She stood up abruptly, the silk robe billowing around her. You don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly. I remain seated, calm, in control. I've understood since the moment I messaged you. Did you really think I accidentally found your number in Marcus's phone? Did you really think it was a coincidence that I reached out to you for comfort? The realization hit her like a physical blow. You knew. This whole time. I knew. I've known about your affair for over a week. I've known about the messages, the photos, the jokes about my gullibility. I've known about room 237 and your plans for my wedding night. She sank back into her chair, all the fight going out of her. Why? She whispered. Why did you bring me here? Because I wanted to see who you really were. Not the woman Marcus thinks he knows, not the sympathetic friend you pretended to be, but the real Veronica. The woman who targets committed men, who destroys relationships for sport, who feels no remorse for the lives she ruins. I gestured to the cameras hidden around our villa, finally revealing their existence, and I wanted to document it all. Her eyes widened in horror as she spotted the tiny devices she'd never noticed. You've been recording me? Every conversation, every cruel comment, every moment of you revealing your true nature, including yesterday when you told that man at the beach bar that you were single and looking for a good time, while you were supposed to be comforting me through my heartbreak over the affair you were having. She looked like she was going to be sick. Emily, please, you have to understand. No, Veronica, you have to understand. This isn't about Marcus anymore. This isn't even about the affair. This is about the fact that you're a predator who destroys people's lives and feels no remorse. This is about the fact that you took my pain and used it as entertainment. I stood up and walked to the railing, looking out over the paradise that was about to become her nightmare. I've spent this week documenting everything. Your philosophy about being the other woman. Your casual cruelty toward the wives and girlfriends you help betray. Your complete lack of empathy or conscience. And most importantly, your admission that you specifically target men for their money and resources. What are you going to do with the recordings? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm going to create a documentary. A beautiful, devastating documentary about a woman who makes a living destroying other people's happiness. I'm going to show the world exactly who Veronica really is. She started crying then, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of a cornered animal who finally realized the trap had closed around her. Please, she begged. My career, my reputation, it would ruin everything. Good? I said simply. That's the point. But then something interesting happened. As Veronica sat there crying, her phone started ringing. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, I said. What? Answer the phone. Put it on speaker. Emily, I can't. Answer it. Or I release the documentary tomorrow instead of waiting to edit it properly. With shaking hands, she answered the call and put it on speaker. V, thank God. Marcus's voice filled the air. I've been trying to reach you for days. Emily found out about us. She called off the wedding. Where are you? Veronica looked at me with desperate eyes. I nodded for her to respond. I'm on vacation, she said carefully. Vacation? Now? V? We need to talk about what happened. Emily completely lost it. She was making all these crazy accusations. What kind of accusations? I called out, loud enough for him to hear. The silence on the other end was deafening. Who was that? Marcus asked, his voice tight with suspicion. "Hello, Marcus," I said, moving closer to the phone. "How's room 237 working out for you?" "Emily, what the hell is going on? Why are you with Veronica?" "Oh, we're having a wonderful time. We've been in the Maldives for a week, bonding over our shared experiences with cheating men. Veronica has been so helpful, telling me all about her philosophy on relationships. Haven't you, Vi?" Veronica was sobbing now, realizing that she was trapped between two people who both had reason to destroy her. "This is insane," Marcus said. "Emily, whatever game you're playing..." "Game?" I laughed. "Marcus, this isn't a game. This is justice. Did you know that your girlfriend here has been telling me all about your affair? Every detail. She's also been telling me about her other affairs, her other married men, her complete lack of conscience when it comes to destroying relationships." "V, what is she talking about?" Marcus's voice was sharp now. "She didn't tell you?" I asked innocently. "About the others? About how she specifically targets men in relationships because it's more exciting? About how she calls wives and girlfriends placeholders and laughs about how easy it is to steal committed men?" "That's not. I never said that," Veronica protested weakly. "Oh, but you did. I have hours of footage of you saying exactly that. Would you like me to play some highlights for Marcus?" The call went silent for a long moment. Then Marcus's voice came back, cold and calculating. "V, is this true? Are there other men?" And that's when the most beautiful thing happened. Instead of showing any loyalty to Marcus, instead of trying to salvage their relationship, Veronica's survival instincts kicked in. She was cornered, desperate, and she did what predators do when they're trapped. She turned on him. "Other men?" She laughed bitterly. "Marcus, you're not special. You were never special. You're just another married man, well, almost married man, who was easy to manipulate. Did you really think I cared about you? Did you really think what we had was real?" The silence from Marcus's end was everything I had hoped for. "You were a means to an end," Veronica continued, her desperation making her cruel, just like all the others. Rich, arrogant, easy to control. The only difference is that most of my targets are actually successful enough to be worth the effort. "You manipulative bitch," Marcus snarled. "Rich, coming from you," she shot back. "At least I'm honest about what I am. You're the one who was planning to marry someone for their money and then divorce them. You're the one who was laughing about your fiancé's trust fund. I was just along for the ride." And there it was, both of them revealing their true selves, turning on each other like the predators they were, neither of them capable of real love, real loyalty, or real remorse. I ended the call and looked at Veronica, who was staring at me with a mixture of hatred and fear. "Well," I said, "that went better than I expected. But the story wasn't over yet, because what I discovered next would change everything I thought I knew about betrayal, manipulation, and revenge." As Veronica sat there in the wreckage of her lies, her phone buzzed with a message. She looked down at it, and her face went completely white. "What is it?" I asked. She handed me the phone with trembling hands. The message was from someone named D, and it said, "Phase 2 complete. The documentary angle was brilliant. Ready for the final reveal?" I stared at the message, my mind reeling. "Who is D?" Veronica looked up at me with eyes full of an emotion I couldn't identify. Fear? Relief? Something else entirely? "Emily," she said quietly, "there's something else you need to know. Something that's going to change everything you think you understand about this situation." The phone fell from my hands and clattered onto the deck. I stared at Veronica, trying to process what I just read. Someone named D was talking about phases and documentaries and final reveals. Someone who seemed to know exactly what was happening here. "Who is D?" I repeated, my voice barely steady. Veronica closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, she looked like a completely different person. The mask of the seductive homewrecker was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite identify. "D is my business partner," she said quietly. "And Emily, everything you think you know about this situation is wrong." "What are you talking about?" She stood up and walked to the railing, looking out over the water. "My name isn't Veronica Martinez, it's Veronica Daniels, and I'm not a serial cheater who destroys relationships for fun." The world seemed to tilt around me. "What?" "I'm a private investigator who specializes in infidelity cases. I work with clients who suspect their partners are cheating, and I create elaborate scenarios to test their loyalty. I felt like I was drowning. That's impossible. I saw the messages. I saw the photos. You saw what we wanted you to see, she said, turning back to face me. Emily, you weren't my target. Marcus was. I don't understand. 3 months ago, I was hired by someone who suspected that Marcus Richardson was a serial predator who targeted wealthy women for their money. My job was to create an irresistible scenario to test whether he would cheat on his fiancée with a beautiful, available woman. My legs gave out and I sank into my chair. Hired by who? Someone who cares about you very much. Someone who suspected Marcus wasn't who he claimed to be and wanted to protect you before you made the biggest mistake of your life. Who? I whispered. Veronica pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Dee? It's time. She handed me the phone, and a familiar voice came through the speaker. Hello, sweetheart. Dad? I gasped. I'm so sorry, Emily. I'm so sorry it had to happen this way. My father, my own father, had orchestrated this entire thing. Dad, what? How? Why? Because I love you. His voice was thick with emotion. And because I've seen what men like Marcus can do to trusting women like you. But the messages, the affair, was all carefully orchestrated to expose Marcus's true nature. Veronica never slept with him, Emily. She never even kissed him. Every photo, every message, every piece of evidence you found was designed to make Marcus think he was having an affair while documenting his willingness to betray you. I looked at Veronica with new eyes. You're an actress. Among other things, she said gently. I have a master's in psychology and a private investigator's license. What I don't have is a history of destroying relationships. That was all a performance, designed to give you a target for your anger while we gathered evidence about Marcus's real intentions. His real intentions? My father's voice came through the phone again. Emily, Marcus Richardson isn't just a cheater. He's a professional con artist who specializes in targeting wealthy women. You're the 4th woman he's gotten engaged to in the past 6 years. The others all signed prenups and then mysteriously had their trust funds drained through various investment opportunities that Marcus recommended. The world was spinning. That's impossible. Veronica has spent 3 months documenting everything. His real name is Martin Richter, and he has warrants in 3 states for fraud and identity theft. The marketing company he claims to work for? It doesn't exist. The apartment you think is his? He rents it by the week when he needs to impress Marks. I stared at Veronica, trying to reconcile this information with everything I thought I knew. So the woman I've been hating, the woman I've been planning to destroy, you were protecting me? I was doing my job, she said softly. But Emily, I want you to know that over this past week, watching you plan what you thought was revenge, seeing your strength and intelligence and capacity for strategy, I've genuinely grown to admire you. You're nothing like the naive target Marcus thought he was manipulating. The cameras, I said suddenly, the documentary, was a brilliant addition that we never anticipated, Veronica smiled. When you suggested this trip and started recording everything, we realized it was the perfect way to get Marcus to reveal his true intentions. We just had to adapt our plan to work with yours. So when you confessed to the affair during the massage, I was feeding you information that we knew you'd want to hear, while also testing to see how you'd react. The way you kept your composure, the way you continued to plan and strategize instead of falling apart, it confirmed everything your father suspected about your strength. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Turn on the news. Channel 7. With shaking hands, I grabbed the remote and turned on the television in our villa. The local news was just beginning, and the lead story made my blood run cold. Breaking news tonight, local man arrested in elaborate fraud scheme targeting wealthy women. Martin Richter, who has been using the alias Marcus Richardson, was apprehended this morning attempting to access the bank accounts of his former fiancée. Police say Richter has been running romance scams for over a decade, with estimated damages in the millions of dollars. The screen showed Marcus being led away in handcuffs, and I felt a strange mixture of vindication and horror. How? I whispered. While you were here gathering evidence of what you thought was an affair, Veronica explained, we were gathering evidence of his real crimes. The moment you called off the wedding, Marcus panicked and tried to access your accounts using forged documents. We were waiting for him. My father's voice came through the phone again. Emily, I know this is overwhelming. I know you're angry that we didn't tell you the truth. But we needed your reactions to be genuine. Marcus is incredibly smart, incredibly manipulative. If you had known what was really happening, he might have sensed the deception. So I was bait, I said flatly. You were never in any real danger, Veronica said quickly. We had people watching you at all times. Every date, every interaction, every moment you spent with Marcus, you were protected. But yes, in a way, you were bait. The most intelligent, resourceful bait we've ever worked with. I stood up and walked to the edge of the deck, looking out over the paradise that had been the setting for the most elaborate deception of my life. But as I processed everything I'd learned, I realized something important. I'm not angry, I said, surprising myself. You're not? Veronica asked. I should be. I should be furious that you manipulated me, that you made me think I was getting revenge when I was actually being protected. But I'm not angry. I paused, searching for the right word. I'm grateful. Grateful? Do you know what the worst part of thinking Marcus had cheated was? It wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the humiliation. It was thinking that I had been stupid enough to fall for it. Thinking that I had ignored obvious signs, that I had been the naive little rich girl who got taken advantage of. I turned back to face Veronica. But that's not what happened, is it? I didn't miss the signs because I was naive. I missed them because Marcus is a professional criminal who has spent years perfecting his technique. And when I found out about the affair, I didn't fall apart. I planned. I strategized. I executed a complex revenge scheme that impressed a professional investigator. You did, she agreed. Emily, in 20 years of doing this job, I have never seen someone respond to betrayal with such intelligence and control. Most people either fall apart completely or lash out destructively. You turned it into an art form. So what happens now? I asked. Now Marcus goes to prison, my father's voice said through the phone. The evidence we've gathered, combined with testimony from his previous victims, should put him away for a very long time. And the documentary I thought I was making, Veronica smiled, is actually going to be incredibly useful as evidence in court. Your footage of our conversations, your strategic planning, your detailed documentation of what you thought was Marcus's betrayal, it shows a clear pattern of how he operates, how he makes his victims feel, and how devastating his crimes are. But what about you? I asked Veronica. I spent a week planning to destroy your life. I recorded you saying terrible things, even though you were just playing a character. All of which can be easily explained by the truth, she said. And honestly, Emily, watching you plan what you thought was revenge, it was like watching a masterclass in strategic thinking. You never once considered anything illegal or truly harmful. Everything you planned was about exposure and consequences, not destruction. I sat back down, feeling emotionally exhausted. I don't know how to process all of this. You don't have to process it all at once, Veronica said gently. But Emily, I want you to understand something important. This experience, as traumatic as it's been, has shown you something about yourself that you might never have discovered otherwise. What's that? You're not a victim. Even when you thought you were being betrayed in the worst possible way, you didn't become a victim. You became a strategist. You became powerful. You took control of your narrative and planned to rewrite it on your own terms. I thought about that for a moment. She was right. Even in my darkest moment, when I thought my heart was breaking and my life was falling apart, I had never once considered myself helpless. There's something else, my father's voice said through the phone. Emily, the trust fund that Marcus was after? I've been planning to turn it over to you anyway. You're 29 years old, you're brilliant, and you've just proven that you can handle anything life throws at you. The money is yours, free and clear. Dad? And there's more. Veronica's firm would like to offer you a position. I looked at Veronica in surprise. What? You have a natural talent for investigation and strategy, she said. What you accomplished this week, thinking you were planning revenge against a cheating fiancé was actually more sophisticated than most professional operations. We could use someone with your skills and your perspective. You want me to become a private investigator? I want you to consider it. Think about it. You could help other women avoid what you almost went through. You could be part of exposing predators like Marcus before they destroy more lives. I looked around our paradise villa, thinking about everything that had happened. A week ago, I thought I was the victim of infidelity. I thought I was planning elaborate revenge against a cheating fiancé and his mistress. I thought I was documenting the destruction of two people who had betrayed me. Instead, I had been the hero of my own story all along. I had been gathering evidence against a criminal, protecting other potential victims, and proving to myself and everyone around me that I was far stronger and smarter than anyone had given me credit for. "What about Marcus?" I asked. "Will I have to testify?" "Probably," Veronica said. "But Emily, you won't be testifying as a victim. You'll be testifying as the woman who helped bring down a serial predator. You'll be the one who gathered crucial evidence and helped ensure that he can never hurt anyone else." As the sun began to set over the Maldives, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: complete, absolute certainty about who I was and what I was capable of. "I have one condition," I said finally. "What's that?" Veronica asked. "I want to finish this vacation. I want to enjoy these last few days in paradise, not as the woman who was betrayed by her fiancé, not as the woman who was protected by her father's elaborate scheme, but as Emily Richardson, the woman who helped take down a serial predator." Veronica grinned. "I think that's the best idea I've heard all week. And when we get back," I continued, "I want to hear more about this job offer, because I think I might have found my calling." That night, as we sat on the deck, sharing a bottle of champagne under a sky full of stars, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even with the people who wronged you. Sometimes the best revenge is discovering that you're so much stronger than anyone, including yourself, ever knew. And sometimes the best revenge is realizing that what felt like the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the beginning of the best thing that ever happened to you. The documentary I thought I was making about destroying a homewrecker, it became evidence that helped convict a serial criminal. The elaborate revenge scheme I thought I was executing, it became the foundation for a new career helping other women avoid the trap I almost fell into. The betrayal I thought would destroy me, it became the catalyst that showed me exactly how powerful I really was. 6 months later, as I sat in a courtroom watching Marcus Martin being sentenced to 15 years in prison, I felt something I never expected: gratitude. Not for what he did, but for what his attempted deception revealed about my own strength, intelligence, and resilience. And as Veronica and I walked out of that courthouse together, partners in a business dedicated to protecting women from predators like Marcus, I realized something profound. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. The best revenge is becoming so much more than they ever imagined you could be. But there was one final twist waiting for me. As we reached the courthouse steps, a woman approached us. She was elegant, well-dressed, probably in her 50s. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Emily Richardson?" "Yes," I replied cautiously. "My name is Diana Richardson. I'm Martin's mother." The blood drained from my face. "Oh." "I wanted to thank you," she said, tears in her eyes. "Thank me for stopping him, for finally stopping him." She took a shaky breath. "Emily, I've been trying to stop my son for 20 years. I've reported him to police, I've warned his victims, I've begged him to get help, but he was always too smart, too careful, too manipulative." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "These are letters from some of his other victims, women whose lives he destroyed before you stopped him. They wanted you to know that what you did, it gave them justice they never thought they'd get." As I took the folder, she added quietly, "I know this sounds strange coming from his mother, but I'm proud of you. You did what I never could. You saved all the women he would have hurt in the future." And that's when I knew with absolute certainty that everything that had happened, the deception, the pain, the elaborate scheme, even the manipulation by people who were trying to protect me, had been worth it. Because sometimes the most devastating betrayal leads to the most powerful transformation. And sometimes, when you think you're planning revenge, you're actually planning justice. The documentary was never released publicly, but it lives on in evidence lockers and court records, a testament to the fact that victims can become heroes and that the best stories aren't about getting even. They're about getting better. They're about getting stronger. They're about getting justice.